Urbanization refers to the population shift from rural to urban areas. There was major industrial growth in the United States, making America the major industrial power in the world during this time. Heavy industry such as steel was a great contributor to this growth. Efficiency to the workplace was encouraged by organized assembly lineup. The development of new inventions sparked the growth of modernization. Within densely populated cities, urbanization led to a decreased standard of living. Urbanization impacts the environment through the strain of many resources. This movement changed the social standard of a typical family. Educational institutions were reformed due to social acceptance of social Darwinism. Medical advances were made due to the eagerness to be educated. The United States became more of a melting pot due to an increase in immigration. The great shift from rural to urban areas offered better opportunities for those in need of employment, housing, education, etc. The process of urbanization that occurred in the United States during the late 19th and early 20th centuries was caused by industrialization, modernization, and new economic opportunities. Urbanization was the result of population increase, technological and economical changes which offered opportunities in urban industries and reduced the demand for labor on farms. Inventions of machines for agricultural use took out many jobs. Many farmers worked on the fields. This led to an increased number of people moving to urban areas. Urban areas offered better opportunities for employment, housing, education, etc.
While urbanization had many positive consequences, it came with many negative repercussions. Due to urbanization, there was a rise in pollution due to the clustering of factories in the city. Many people moved to urban areas to get jobs in these factories so they could provide for their families, but these factories were pumping in toxins and gases into the atmosphere, which caused for pollution and was unhealthy for the communities. Also, with urbanization came the lack of affordable housing dilemma. With the exponential rise of the population, there wasn't enough housing to go around, so many people were forced into homelessness or tenements, which the living conditions of tenements were very, very, very low. Also, with the denser population that came with urbanization, there was a crime rise. In 1881, there was only 25 murders per 1 million people. By 1898, there was 107 murders per 1 million people. That was a huge rise. Violence was up and crime was in. Also, with the denser population caused by urbanization was the spread of disease and death. The main diseases that were spread during the time of urbanization was tuberculosis, cholera, and typhoid. Because of the denser population, diseases were easily caught and spread and moved around the city because there were so many people per square mile. That all came with urbanization and denser population.
Some positive effects of urbanization include a more sustained economy and a centralized population. Railroads, which were first made of iron then steel, allowed access to raw materials and markets. New career openings for skilled men and managers were able to expand finance through railroads. Water and sewage systems controlled the sanitation and helped to prevent many possible diseases that were common among citizens. The innovation of skyscrapers became a basis for the growing city life. Skyscrapers assumed a variety of shapes and sizes. Urbanization also affected the environment negatively. Urbanization impacted the environment through the strain of resources including food, water, energy, and the land itself. As the population increased within the urban area, the resources are depleted to accommodate the growing population. Also, it had an influence on weather patterns. It created concentrated heat zones that generate storms, hailstorms, and cloudiness, long-lasting environmental damage within cities. It also caused the trapping of pollutants.
In order to improve the intellect of our country, grade school was made mandatory by the 1870s. Because of this, literacy rates increased 9% from 1870 to 1900. The Morrill Act of 1862 provided grants of land to states to finance the establishment of colleges specializing in agricultural and mechanic arts.
Factory work was very dangerous and factory owners were rarely ever held responsible. Around 25,000 to 35,000 deaths and 1 million occurred each year. Many of the deaths occurred on railroad jobs such as fires, machinery accidents, and train wrecks. There weren't federal regulation of safety and no enforcement of state or local safety regulation. Child labor was used a lot as labor during urbanization. It included indentured servitude and child slavery. Children were often preferred because factory owners thought children were more manageable, cheaper, and less likely to strike. Children worked in large numbers in mines, glass factories, textiles, agricultural, etc.
As families migrated from rural to urban areas, they became less traditional. The extended family no longer lived with the family because there simply was not enough room. Families also became less traditional in the sense of a single mother family or a married couple without kids. Fertility rates decreased partly because children were not as useful in urban areas as they were in the countryside. For instance, children aren't plowing fields to provide for their family in the city. Tenement housing contributed to the poor living conditions of urban families. These small apartments were unsanitary and had many safety hazards. Suburban areas only began to appear when wealthy people built second homes in the countryside to escape the crowded city life. Medical advances were made due to the eagerness to improve sanitation. Joseph Lister, a great surgeon of the time, discovered how antiseptics prevent infections. This greatly contributed to a decrease in deaths.
The first place snail racing cup presented to Squidward, Tortellini!